The story starts like this: I transmigrated into a cheesy novel. Yeah, you read that right. One day I was just chilling, and the next thing I knew, Boomy woke up as James Walker, the half-brother of the male lead. Not the cool, alpha-type protagonist, but the poor dude who was forced to marry the female CEO in a coma. The original James was nothing but a scapegoat, a stand-in groom, shoved into a contract marriage with Emily Carter, the powerful heiress who got into a car accident and became a living statue. The whole thing was supposed to be temporary, just to help smooth over the PR mess. But plot twist, I got stuck in his place, with all the drama and none of the perks. I thought I could lie low, enjoy some free time reading books in her hospital room, and eventually get a peaceful divorce once she woke up. But then I started hearing voices. No, not ghost voices. Her voice. Emily's inner thoughts. Like, full-on inner monologue in my head. At first, I thought I was going crazy. But when I heard her mumbling, "Ugh, it's been 2 months. When am I finally getting up? I'm starving. I want hot pot, barbecue, seafood, fried chicken, literally anything." I knew something was up. And then she started singing, "Little Cabbage, cold in the field," like a bored farm girl. I couldn't take it anymore. I muttered, "Can you keep it down? Some of us healthy people are trying to read here." She froze. "Wait. You can hear me? Quick, quick, tell me your 5 cents worth of gossip." Oh God. I realized I wasn't just hearing things. I'd unlocked my golden finger. I could hear my vegetative wife's thoughts. Amazing. I hit the transmigration jackpot. Not. What kind of cursed ability was this? All she did was talk. Non-stop. Every single day. This nurse sucks. Not gentle at all. Someone else should bathe me. What's my husband's name again? He's kinda cute though. Ugh, my butt's itchy. Can someone scratch it for me? I was trying to read, damn it. But no, she kept whining. I gave in, sighed, and reached under the blanket to scratch her butt twice. Suddenly silence. Then a loud mental scream, what is he doing? Why is he touching my butt? Is he one of those pervs who even go after comatose girls? Then she added in a quiet little voice, can you move your hand slightly to the right? Still itchy. I rubbed my temples and complied. Better now? She sighed like she just got a spa treatment. Perfect. You're welcome. At that point, I'd had it. Can you please shut up now? I tried to go back to reading. She did not shut up. So. You're not my original fiancé, right? That was Ryan, wasn't it? Your older half-brother. Thank God it wasn't him who married me. That guy talks too much. The irony. This woman talked more in her mind than 10 toddlers on sugar. Hey, can you help me with one more thing? Her voice trembled. I think I got a mosquito bite on my butt. It's so itchy. Can you check it out? I looked at her flawless, porcelain-like skin, her calm expression, her delicate face. Even lying motionless in bed, she had that untouchable CEO aura. But her requests. Pure chaos. I swallowed hard. This is the last time. We're married, sure, but you better remember this when you wake up. When I wake up, you'll beg to help me again, and I'll say no. Humph. Reluctantly, I lifted her gown and checked. Lower. A bit more to the right. Just as I leaned in to inspect. Click. The door opened. I looked up and made direct eye contact with Mrs. Carter-me mother-in-law. Her expression. Horror. My hand. Still awkwardly hovering near her daughter's butt. Mom, no, I mean, Mrs. Carter, it's not what it looks like. Her face was redder than mine. Emily, meanwhile, was still asleep, mumbling, "Why'd you stop? Keep going." And that, my friends, was how I became the son-in-law of the year. After that day, Mrs. Carter started treating me way too well. She handed me envelopes with 10 grand every time she visited. "It's our family who owes you," she'd say with misty eyes. Even the doctor pulled me aside, smiling awkwardly. "James, she might wake up soon. You two being close won't affect her recovery. Just, take it slow." Take what slow? I wasn't doing anything. Furious, I returned to the room, only to hear Emily's voice again. "Where did you go? I'm so bored. Why don't you sleep?" I snapped. "It's not like you can do much else." "Well, you're here. Can't you stay the night? The nurse snores like a tractor. It's messing with my beauty rest. You're not even awake. Still. It's spooky here at night. Ghosts and stuff. Hospitals have bad vibes. Were you always this dramatic? I prefer the term sunshine girl. Name one other coma patient who can joke like this. I'm amazing." I couldn't argue with that. Eventually, I gave in and stayed the night, not because of her, okay? Her mom gave me too much money. Guilt tripped me. The next day, she whispered, "Is this our wedding night? I've never had one. If I mess up, please forgive me." I glanced at her serene sleeping face. "Lady, do you even know you're still in a coma?" Sleeping beside her was weird. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how the Carter Group was in deep trouble after Emily's accident. Stocks plummeted, partners pulled out, and competitors were circling like vultures, especially the Walker Corporation. In the original plot, Emily woke up, killed me off, then destroyed the Walkers. I stared at her blankly lying next to me. Would she really kill me? She must have felt my gaze. "Am I that pretty?" she teased. "Wanna touch again?" I rolled away. "No thanks." Not long after, a nurse accidentally leaked my story to a news reporter. Next thing I knew, our tragic love story, husband devoted to comatose wife, was on the front page. People went wild. There was even a candid photo of me reading beside her bed. Sunshine filtering through the window. It looked like a damn Pinterest mood board. The comments? Pure chaos. Damn, I'd also stay loyal for a wife that hot. Wait, isn't that Emily Carter, CEO of Carter Group? She's in a coma. When did she even get married? Boom, Emily Carter vegetative wife and James Walker hit the jackpot, hit trending. The internet lost its mind. Carter Group's PR team scrambled to take it down, but the genie was out of the bottle. And what did Emily, the low-key queen of privacy, think? They better have used a filter. That nurse should have done my makeup first. But hey, I still got fans. Look at the comments. Wifey Emily, you better feel threatened, James. I sighed. You can have them all. Too late. You're stuck with me now, hubby. And with that, part 1 ends. I had no idea the real storm was only just beginning. After the viral news story dropped, things got completely out of control, and by out of control, I mean James Walker, went from being a background character in a corporate soap opera to the internet's favorite accidental husband of the year, trending on social media, plastered across news headlines, and praised as the loyal, loving spouse who stayed beside his comatose wife, Emily Carter, every single day like some modern-day fairytale prince, except I didn't sign up for any of this, and all I really wanted was a quiet life reading books next to a woman who couldn't talk back, but now, not only was she talking back in my head, non-stop, but the public now thought we had the kind of relationship Disney would sue someone for plagiarizing, and it didn't help that one of the trending photos showed me holding her hand while sunlight danced on her face, making us look like a Nicholas Sparks poster come to life. And just as I was processing all that chaos, Emily's voice echoed again, smug as hell. You see that? Filter or not, I still got it. Even while unconscious. My fans are loyal. You better not slack off, James, or someone else might steal your spot. I groaned, burying my face in my hands, trying to ignore the insane number of notifications flooding my phone. Turns out once the photo hit the net, CP fans short for couple pairing maniacs started buying Carter Group products in bulk, just to support our favorite lovebirds, as one viral tweet put it, and I'm not even joking. One of them wrote, "If we don't buy the Carter skincare line, how will Emily afford her happily ever after with James?" Which was both terrifying and weirdly effective, because Carter Group stock prices started rebounding, and collaborations that had been frozen began to re-engage after seeing the insane online traction, basically proving that our fake, awkward, coma-ridden marriage had accidentally become a branding miracle. Emily, of course, was thrilled, not because she cared about the stock market, but because she liked the idea of having shippers, as she called them, cheering her on even while she was stuck in bed, and while I was trying to process the PR madness. Her mom, Mrs. Carter, gave me another warm smile and said, "James, whatever happens, thank you for staying with my daughter," handing me an envelope so thick I thought it might be an eviction notice. It wasn't, it was cash, again, and I felt more guilty than ever, because the longer this dragged on, the deeper I got pulled into the farce, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep up the act without falling face-first into the story's original timeline, where my character dies the second Emily wakes up and realizes she's married to the wrong man. Except the Emily I was getting to know well, here wasn't exactly what I expected. She was sharp, witty, and a little annoying in the best way, constantly making comments like, "Ugh, if I were awake, I'd totally kick your brother's ass for skipping out on this marriage. At least you're better looking," and then she'd hum some ridiculous tune like she was starring in her own sitcom, and I'd catch myself smiling like an idiot for no reason. But the turning point, the true madness, started when a mainstream media outlet decided to ride the viral wave and interview me directly, and despite my protests, Carter Group's PR team scheduled an online press conference with me as the speaker, because the public loves your sincerity, James, and because Emily obviously couldn't speak for herself, at least not out loud. So I was dressed in a suit, standing in front of flashing lights and a dozen microphones, about to read a speech Emily herself had drafted for me while lying silently in bed, but dictating every line in my head like a boss, saying things like, "Don't forget to pause for dramatic effect here," and "Smile like you just won the lottery but don't look smug." And as I delivered the statement about her accident, condition, and current treatment status, I caught the shift in the room. People looked moved, nodding along, until one bold reporter raised their hand and said, "Mr. Walker, we understand the medical side, but what the public really wants to know is your love story. When did you fall in love with MS. Carter? Was it love at first sight?" I froze, the script stopped short, and I looked sideways at Emily's unconscious body, only for her voice to hiss in my brain, "Say something romantic. This is your moment. Make me cry." So I cleared my throat, smiled awkwardly, and replied, "We weren't exactly a traditional couple. It started as an arranged marriage, honestly, but the more time I spent with her, the more I realized she's someone I didn't want to live without," which was technically true even if she was still technically asleep. And then another reporter laughed and asked, "How do you handle, personal needs?" Considering her condition, and I swore I could feel the heat from Emily's imaginary death glare through my skull as she screamed in my head, "Who asked that? I'm gonna find you in your dreams," and for once I agreed with her. The questions went viral, again, because apparently people love tragic romance mixed with a sprinkle of awkward TMI, and overnight, the couple name, Gemily, trended worldwide, CP fan art exploded, and we were declared the modern Bonnie and Clyde, except with more fluff and fewer bullets. But the funniest part, Emily loved it, asking me to read the fanfiction people wrote about us while pretending to be asleep, like, in the moonlit hospital room, James leaned down and whispered, "I'll love you even if you never wake up," before gently tracing a heart on her bandaged wrist, and I swear to God, she made me read one where I climbed into her bed and sobbed while holding her clothes, and then she had the audacity to ask, "Do you think you'd really do that? Cry for me?" And I choked out, "More like smother you with a pillow at this point," which made her giggle like she just won the lottery, and just when I thought things couldn't get more surreal, Carter Group's marketing team launched a campaign using our romance to promote their new product line, with slogans like, "True love heals all wounds, Carter Care Skincare," and while I was cringing into oblivion, Emily whispered smugly, "Look at us making money moves while lying down. Power couple behavior," and that's when I knew I was in way over my head, but for some reason, I didn't mind it as much as I thought I would. I was halfway through reading another ridiculous fanfic. This one had me sobbing shirtless at Emily's bedside while cradling her comatose body under moonlight like some tragic K-drama lead when I realized something felt off, not the usual kind of Emily's yelling in my head about hot pot again, kind of off, but the kind where the hospital room suddenly went eerily quiet, too quiet, and just when I was about to call the nurse to make sure nothing was wrong with the monitors, I heard a voice not in my head this time, but out loud, smooth, cool, and laced with sarcasm, "Well, excuse me for interrupting your tragic love story. Should I come back later?" I dropped my phone like it had electrocuted me, heart pounding out of my chest as I turned to see her, Emily Carter, sitting upright in bed, very much awake, very much aware, and looking at me like I'd just been caught cheating on a math test and accidentally setting the school on fire while doing it, and if my jaw could physically unhinge, it would have crashed through the floor, because not only was she conscious, she was completely different from the Emily I knew in my head, colder, sharper, more distant, and totally unaware of everything she'd said to me mentally for the past few months. "Emily?" I stammered like a broken record, rushing to her side, "Are you okay? Do you feel anything weird? Dizzy? Headache? Blurry vision?" She looked at me with a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Walker. But I suggest you handle your personal matters first before worrying about mine." And just like that, the atmosphere went from rom-com to courtroom drama, and I realized she wasn't talking about medical emergencies. She was talking about Sophie Miller, aka Rain Girl, my ex-fiancée who'd shown up like a ghost with bad timing a few days ago, claiming she still loved me and wanted to start over, and of course that was the exact moment Emily woke up, because this is my life now, apparently. A never-ending spiral of miscommunication and high-stakes timing. Sophie had burst into the room all dramatic, crying, "James, your father promised us a future. We can run away together now. I'm not afraid anymore," and before I could push her off me, Emily sat up like the undead and calmly asked, "Would the two of you like some privacy?" And yeah, you can bet Sophie ran for the hills after that, but the damage was done. Emily thought I was cheating on her, which was insane considering she'd been in a coma for 4 months, but logic doesn't apply in romance web novels, does it? What hurt more wasn't the accusation but the way she acted afterward, cold, professional, polite to the point of insult, calling me Mr. Walker, and refusing to speak about anything remotely personal, like those months meant absolutely nothing to her, like she hadn't whispered stupid jokes in my head every night and made me scratch her imaginary mosquito bites. Worse, I couldn't hear her thoughts anymore, the golden finger was gone, and I felt like I'd been ghosted by a ghost who used to live rent-free in my brain. So when the doctors came in all cheerful saying, "Congratulations, Ms. Carter, you're free to go home soon," I wanted to yell at them for smiling while I was emotionally collapsing, but instead I just stood there like a decorative houseplant as Emily turned to me and said, "Let's discuss divorce after my discharge," and I don't know what came over me but I blurted out, "Excuse me," and she raised one eyebrow like she didn't expect me to question it, which only made me angrier. So I pulled out the thick stack of papers I'd been saving for weeks, her favorite fanfics. Printed out in full color with doodles she'd forced me to draw, and slapped them on her nightstand. "You want a divorce? Fine. But first read these." Page 1, CEO Emily Carter, Queen of the Coma, seduces her sunshine husband with nothing but brainwaves and sass. Her expression cracked for just a second before she hissed, "You're insane." "No," I snapped, "I'm the guy who scratched your butt because you said it itched, remember that?" Silence. Her ears turned visibly red, which gave me a sick sense of satisfaction, but it didn't last long because not 2 days later, Ryan Walker, me ever so righteous older half-brother and the original male lead of this mess, decided to show up looking like he owned the damn place, all fake smiles and concern, saying, "James, I just found out you married Emily in my place. I'm sorry you had to go through that." I didn't even bother to reply before Emily rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, "Oh great, the script's trying to reboot," but Ryan wasn't done. He launched into this whole monologue about how the family didn't know Emily was in a coma and would have never agreed to the marriage otherwise, and how he was willing to take responsibility now if I wanted to step aside like we were doing a fantasy football trade or something, and before I could tell him to go back to whatever rock he'd crawled out from, Emily cut in, voice like ice, "Mr. Walker, let me make this clear. I don't need either of you deciding my life for me. And if you try to interfere with my company again, I'll have legal draw up a cease and desist so fast your tie will catch fire." She turned to me and added, "Mr. Walker, I expect you to prepare the divorce agreement promptly," then walked out like a storm cloud in heels, leaving me standing there with my idiot brother and a growing pit in my stomach, because the Emily in front of me wasn't just cold, she was heartbroken, and I had no idea how to fix it without the one power I'd relied on this whole time. That night, I tried to approach her in her office, just to hand her the surveillance footage and payment records proving Sophie had been paid off by Ryan to sabotage our marriage, but Emily barely looked up from her computer and said, "Leave it on the table," like I was just another employee filing a complaint, and I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed the USB onto her desk and said, "Can you stop pretending none of it mattered? I know you remember something, anything. You reacted when that doctor made the joke about me touching your butt. You remember, don't you?" Her fingers froze over her keyboard, but she didn't speak, so I added bitterly, "You want a clean break, fine. But don't erase me like I never existed. I was there. Every single day." I turned to leave, but her voice, soft, trembling, finally called out, "James. I do remember." I spun around so fast I nearly tripped over the rug. She was standing now, cheeks flushed, hands clenched at her sides. "I remember everything. I just didn't know how to face you." Her eyes searched mine. "What we had. It wasn't fake to me either. But I'm scared, okay? What if you just pitted me? What if I was just your mission?" I stepped forward, closing the space between us, and whispered, "You were never my mission. You're the one person who made me feel like I belonged here." She blinked rapidly, lips trembling, and I knew in that moment, maybe just maybe you had a second chance. And right then, the intercom rang. "MS. Carter, your interview starts in 5 minutes." She stared at me, then exhaled, "Looks like we'll have to fake our way through one more press conference." I smirked. "Fake it till we make it, right?" She didn't reply, just looped her arm through mine as we walked out together. But this time, her hand didn't tremble. Emily and I walked into the press room like the power couple everyone online believed we were, her in a tailored navy blue suit that made her look like she was ready to acquire 3 companies before breakfast, me in a suit she picked because, and I quote, "If you're gonna lie for me, at least look hot doing it," and for a brief second, under the flashing lights and rows of curious journalists, I forgot that just 2 days ago she wanted to divorce me and erase every memory we'd built together. I forgot that the only reason this press conference existed was to salvage Carter Group stock from the rumors and the Sophie Miller fiasco, because for one surreal moment, as she adjusted the mic and casually looped her hand through my arm, it felt real again, like we were in this together, not because we had to be, but because we wanted to be, even if both of us were still too stubborn to say it out loud. The conference started with your standard corporate jargon: medical updates, recovery timelines, projected quarterly rebounds, but the real firestorm came when the reporters started asking about our marriage again. One woman stood up and said, "MS. Carter, we understand you were in a coma for several months. Did you know that during that time, Mr. Walker remained by your side every single day?" And Emily paused, looked at me for half a heartbeat too long, and said smoothly, "I'm aware now." And I'm grateful, which was such a clean, diplomatic line that it hurt more than if she'd slapped me across the face, but I kept smiling, because this was our PR survival game, and I knew better than anyone that Emily didn't say things she didn't mean, not unless she absolutely had to, and then came the follow-up, Mr. Walker, now that MS. Carter is awake, do you plan to continue living together? I was about to deflect when Emily beat me to it, of course. James and I have a mutual understanding, and I couldn't tell if she meant that in a we're in love way or a we're both hostages to our public image way, but either way, the press loved it, and by the time we stepped off stage, social media was already exploding again with hashtags like Gemily returns and CE-owned husband goals. And CP fans were posting edits of us that made us look like we were starring in a luxury perfume commercial, but the second we were alone again, the air shifted. Emily pulled her hand back, eyes guarded, and said, I'm going back to the company. There's too much to clean up, which wasn't exactly a thank you or a let's start over, but I let it go because we were slowly, painfully circling each other again, like two people who wanted the same thing but were too scared to reach for it. Still, the aftermath of Sophie's ambush wasn't over. Those stupid photos of her hugging me in the hospital corridor, captured at the worst possible angles, somehow got leaked online by anonymous sources, and within hours, I was trending again, but this time not as the perfect husband, no, this time it was cheating scum who played with a coma patient's feelings, and the worst part. Ryan Walker had the audacity to give an interview, looking all solemn on camera, saying, it's my fault. James only married Emily because I left. I just want what's best for both of them now, which somehow made him look like a saint and me like a gold-digging rat who got caught loving the wrong woman. It was PR suicide, and even though Emily didn't say anything to me directly, I could see it in the way she moved around the house quieter, colder, like she was putting up walls just in case the rumors were true, just in case I wasn't the man she thought I was, and that pissed me off. Not just because of how it made me look, but because of how it made her doubt herself for ever believing in me in the first place. So I did what any rational man would do. I went full FBI mode and tracked down every piece of proof I could that Sophie had been paid off by the Walker Corporation, even managed to get a tech friend to hack into her account and pull the payment logs, and yeah, that's probably illegal, but morals go out the window when your wife thinks you're trash. I also dug up hospital surveillance showing me literally pushing her away every time she got too close. Then I waited for Emily to get home from a 14-hour board meeting where she probably had to smile through investor tantrums just to keep the company afloat, and when she finally walked in, heels clicking against marble like the final boss of a dating sim, I met her at the door with a USB drive and said, we need to talk. She stared at me like I was a particularly annoying spreadsheet but didn't argue, leading me to her office where I dumped all the evidence on her desk like I was a prosecutor about to close a case. That's everything: transaction history, chat logs, CCTV. You'll see I never responded to her once. She was stalking me. Ryan paid her to stage those photos, and I expected her to flip through it, maybe give a snarky one-liner, but instead she just stood there, frozen, like the weight of the world had finally cracked her armor, and I realized she wasn't mad anymore. She was hurt, really hurt, because this wasn't just about me, it was about betrayal, about never knowing who to trust, about growing up in a world where even love was transactional. And I hated that I was part of that pain. I stepped closer, softer now. Emily, I know I'm not perfect. But I've never lied to you. Not once. She didn't answer, just whispered, I believe you, and for a second, it felt like the world stopped spinning, like maybe we had a shot again, until she looked up at me with those stormy eyes and added, but believing you doesn't make it hurt less, then turned away and shut the office door in my face. I stood there for a long time, just listening to the silence on the other side, and eventually, I walked away, back to my room, to think about how someone can be so close and so far. All at once, the next day, she barely acknowledged me, just left a thermos of goji berry tea on my nightstand with a post-it that said, don't stay up too late. It's bad for your liver, which was weirdly domestic for someone who wanted to divorce me, but I took it as a win because Emily Carter wasn't the type to brew tea for people she hated. A few nights later, she actually walked into my room at midnight, took my phone without asking, and said, you're not sleeping. Come with me, then dragged me into her bedroom, pushed me into bed, and said, just sleep. Don't get weird about it, like that wasn't the weirdest damn thing she could have done, and I wanted to ask 100 questions, but instead I lay there beside her in the dark, our backs barely touching, and for the first time in weeks, I slept like a human again, and the next morning, when she kicked me out without saying a word, I didn't even complain, because I was starting to understand her rhythm: push, pull, retreat, approach. It was messy, but it was real, and just when I thought things were stabilizing, life, of course, decided to throw another grenade. The photos resurfaced, this time blasted across tabloid covers with headlines like "Secret Lover Exposed." Carter Marriage a Lie. And it wasn't even the photos that made it bad, it was Ryan's statement in the interview where he said, "I just hope Emily finds happiness. James deserves to be with the one he truly loves," and I nearly punched a wall, because that guy had played the martyr card so hard he made me look like a villain in a teen drama, and to make it worse, Sophie started making the rounds too, doing a damn pity tour online saying she was still healing, and never meant to hurt anyone, and people actually bought it. Because the internet has the memory of a goldfish with a conspiracy complex, and suddenly everyone thought I was a clout chaser who used a coma patient to gain fame. I couldn't take it anymore. I shut off my phone, curled into the couch like a shrimp, and stared at the ceiling until Emily came over, took one look at me, and said, "All right, get up. You look like a divorced dad on Christmas," and when I didn't move, she sat beside me and said something I didn't expect: "I'll handle it. The next press release will come from me." I blinked, seriously? She nodded, "I'm your wife, James. If the world's gonna hate you, it should at least hate you for the right reasons," and that was the moment I realized she remembered everything, even the smallest things, and she was finally fighting with me, not against me. The press conference started just like the last one: flashing cameras, overloaded microphones, reporters holding up their phones for better sound quality, but this time, I wasn't the one behind the podium, Emily was, and let me tell you, she looked like she was about to declare war on half of the internet and walk away with applause, dressed in a simple white blouse and black skirt combo that screamed, "I'm calm, composed, and will absolutely destroy you legally if you breathe wrong," and for a moment, even I sat there thinking, damn, I wouldn't mess with her. Then she opened with a line that made the whole room go dead silent: "There are two things I won't tolerate: corporate slander and people making up fanfiction about my marriage to discredit my husband," and I swear I heard a dozen journalists swallow hard in sync. She continued, laying it all out: how the marriage had been arranged not out of love but convenience, how I, James Walker, had stepped in last minute because Ryan bailed. How everything afterward, from the coma to the media frenzy, had been a whirlwind neither of us asked for, but that somewhere along the way, things changed. And then she paused, took a deep breath, looked straight into the camera, and said, "James has never betrayed me, not once. I trust him. And if anyone has questions, they can talk to our legal team," and I think I blacked out for a second, because the last time someone publicly defended me like that never happened, and suddenly all the chaos of the past few weeks, the rumors, the photos, the interviews with Sophie and Ryan, just crumbled like sandcastles in front of a rising tide. After the live stream ended, the internet lit up like fireworks: Emily Carter press conference trending within minutes, fan accounts reposting her quotes like gospel, some guy on Twitter even made a remix of her line, "I trust him," over a lo-fi beat, and it somehow slapped. Meanwhile, Carter Group stock surged overnight, proving once again that nothing boosts corporate faith like a fiercely protective CEO with razor-sharp eyeliner. And while Emily was busy handling follow-up calls and emails, I stood off to the side like a confused puppy with too many feelings, because now I didn't just owe her my reputation, I owed her my whole damn spine, and I had no idea how to even begin repaying that kind of loyalty. But then she walked over, handed me a cup of coffee, and said, "Don't get a big head, it was either this or a PR disaster," then smirked like she hadn't just salvaged my entire life in front of millions. I took a sip and smiled. Still the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't push me away, she just looked at me, really looked, and it felt like maybe, finally, we were standing on the same side of the battlefield. But of course, good things never last, because not even 2 days later, we got served. Ryan and Sophie were suing for defamation, claiming emotional distress and character assassination, which was hilarious considering they were the ones who started the circus. but Emily didn't even flinch. She just passed the lawsuit to her legal team and muttered, "They're making it too easy," and I had to admire that level of cold-blooded confidence, especially when I found out that behind the scenes, she'd already filed counterclaims and had been gathering receipts longer than I'd been married to her. But while the lawyers were battling it out, something else happened, quiet, unexpected, but big, like tectonic plates shifting under the surface. Emily started spending more time at home, not working late every night, not shutting herself away in her office like before. Instead, she'd come into the living room, sit beside me on the couch, and actually talk, not just about business or crisis control, but random things, like her favorite snacks or childhood memories or how she used to climb trees and terrorize her private tutors. And one night she told me about her older brother, how he died saving her from a drowning accident when they were kids, how she blamed herself for years, and how after that, she stopped being Emily the girl and started becoming Emily the heir, and suddenly everything made sense: the coldness, the control, the need to keep people at arm's length. Because losing someone you love messes you up in ways you never fully recover from, and I didn't know what to say except, "I'm sorry," which sounded stupid, but it was all I had. And she didn't say anything either, just leaned her head on my shoulder like the weight of it all had finally exhausted her, and in that quiet moment, I realized I was gone, heart, mind, every part of me tethered to this infuriating, complicated, brilliant woman who once made me scratch her mosquito bites telepathically, and I wasn't even mad about it anymore. Later that night, she followed me to my room, threw a pillow at my face, and said, "Move over." I had a nightmare, which was the least subtle excuse I'd ever heard. But I didn't argue, just lifted the blanket and let her in, and when she curled up next to me like it was the most natural thing in the world, I knew she wasn't pretending anymore. The next morning, she made me breakfast: burnt toast, scrambled eggs that tasted like cardboard, and coffee so strong it could melt rust. But she looked so proud of it that I ate everything and told her it was the best thing I'd ever had, and she rolled her eyes. "You're a terrible liar," but I could see the way her lips twitched like she was fighting a smile. And that was the moment I realized we weren't just playing house anymore. We were building something, slowly, awkwardly, but real. Of course, the world doesn't care about your emotional growth when you're trending, and within a week, our old wedding photo somehow leaked online. And people went feral because apparently no one knew we even had a wedding, let alone a private one, and they weren't ready for the visual bomb of Emily in a sleek white gown and me in a tux, standing in front of a courthouse looking like we were filming a Netflix drama. And while most of the comments were positive, a few still questioned the legitimacy of our relationship, asking if it was all a corporate stunt or if we were truly in love. And instead of getting mad, Emily just opened Instagram for the first time in a year, posted one of the leaked photos, and captioned it, "Wouldn't you marry your favorite person, too?" with a wink emoji. And I almost choked on my drink because that was basically a public confession from a woman who used to flinch when I offered her water, and the comment section exploded. Fans crying, "I knew it was real," and "OMG, she loves him," and one person even wrote, "James won the lottery and it wasn't even rigged," and yeah, they were kind of right, but none of them knew the full story. Not the silence, the doubt, the clawing our way back from the edge of disaster, and maybe that's what made it feel so satisfying, that we hadn't just survived, we'd chosen to stay, to fight, to be each other's mess. Emily curled up beside me that night and whispered, "You're still annoying," and I whispered back, "And you're still bossy," and she smiled into my chest like maybe we had everything we needed already, except there's still one thing left unresolved, something that's been bothering both of us for weeks: Ryan's sudden pivot, his financial support from a mysterious backer, and the fact that his company, Walker Corp., despite all the lawsuits and backlash, hasn't collapsed yet, which means someone powerful is pulling strings behind the scenes, someone who wants us to fall harder than ever before. And as I sat there on the couch, watching Emily scroll through investor records with a furrowed brow, I realized the honeymoon phase might be over, because whatever comes next isn't personal, Anna Marie, it's war. The thing about peace is, it never lasts, especially not when you're married to Emily Carter, CEO of a billion-dollar empire, and your half-brother, Ryan Walker, has made it his personal mission to take you both down like he's the villain in a soap opera that just refuses to end. And I knew it was coming. I felt it in the way Emily's phone kept buzzing with anonymous tips, in the sudden silence from contacts who used to flood our inbox, and in the way the Carter Group's share price started dipping again, subtly, almost like someone was intentionally manipulating market confidence, and while we both pretended nothing was wrong, there was this unspoken tension hanging between us like a loaded gun, and sure enough, 2 days later, the bomb dropped. An anonymous whistleblower leaked a fake but extremely detailed report accusing me of insider trading, bribery, and even forging documents to siphon money from Carter Group into a shell company under Sophie Miller's name, and I swear I had never even heard the words, shell company, until then. But now the world was acting like I was some Bond villain in a tailored suit with offshore accounts and a secret yacht, and within minutes, the headlines rolled in, from hero husband to corporate scammer, and Carter Group under siege from the inside, and I thought, great, here we go again, but Emily didn't even blink, didn't flinch, she just turned off her phone, stood up, and said, "Get your coat, we're going to war," and that's how we ended up driving across the city to confront her legal and PR teams in person, where she walked into the boardroom like a general inspecting troops, barked orders like, "I want all digital trails traced, cross-check every transfer that ever touched James's name, and find out who authorized that leak," and then turned to me and said, "You're going to want to sit down for this," which is never something you want to hear from your wife, especially when your entire public image is crumbling faster than my GPA in college, and she pulled up an encrypted file sent by an anonymous hacker that revealed a list of account numbers connected to the fake scandal, and surprise surprise, they all traced back to Walker Corporation, which meant Ryan was not only behind this but had been planning it for months, waiting for the right moment to strike, and Emily looked at me like she was more furious than betrayed. Like this wasn't just about me, it was about her pride, her company, and the fact that someone had dared to mess with what was hers. And if there's one thing you never, ever do, it's piss off a Carter woman when she's finally happy. The next 48 hours were chaos. Emily called in favors from every media outlet that owed her one, her lawyers filed injunctions faster than I could refill my coffee, and she coordinated an emergency press conference where she laid everything out with surgical precision, exposing Ryan and his secret partnership with a shady real estate tycoon who had quietly been acquiring Carter stock through dummy corporations in hopes of a hostile takeover, and she didn't just defend Mesh, shredded the entire opposition, line by line, until the crowd was dead silent and even the reporters looked uncomfortable asking follow-up questions, and the best part, she ended it by turning to the camera and saying, "And to answer your next question, yes, I do love my husband. And no, we're not going anywhere," then walked off the stage like Beyoncé dropping a surprise album, and the internet lost its collective mind again. Emily Carter wins trending globally within an hour, memes flooding in, my name cleared faster than a celebrity DUI, and Carter Group stock rebounding with a vengeance. But while the world was celebrating, I was still stuck in that moment. Those words, "I do love my husband," echoing in my head like they were carved in stone, and I couldn't let it go. Couldn't move past it, because for months I'd been giving everything to this woman, every ounce of patience, humor, loyalty, even when she wanted to divorce me, even when she pretended not to remember anything, and now, finally, she said it out loud, and I needed to know if it was real. So that night, when we were finally alone again, I cornered her in the kitchen and asked, "Did you mean it?" And she looked at me, all calm and unreadable as usual, and said, "Mean what?" like she hadn't just turned our marriage into the headline of the year. So I stepped closer, heart pounding like an idiot, and repeated, "That you love me." And for once, she didn't dodge or deflect, she just leaned in, wrapped her arms around my waist, and whispered, "I've loved you since the day you read me that stupid fanfic where you scratched my butt," and I choked on my own breath because only Emily would make her love confession sound like a stand-up routine. But when I looked into her eyes, I knew she was dead serious, and so I kissed her, for real this time, not just because we had to, not for the cameras, but because everything we'd been through, every lie, every fight, every almost divorce had led to this. And when she kissed me back, soft and slow and certain, I knew I wasn't dreaming. This was real, she was real, we were real. After that, things settled for a while. Ryan and Sophie disappeared from the headlines after their assets were frozen and their reputations torched by the same internet that once believed them. Carter Group stabilized, our PR team took a very long paid vacation, and Emily and I, well, we got weirdly domestic. Like overnight we went from enemies to lovers to grocery shopping partners who argued over cereal brands and binge-watched terrible dating shows just to yell at the contestants, and every now and then she'd still complain about my snoring or mock my cooking. but the difference now was, she'd do it while stealing fries off my plate or falling asleep on my shoulder, and I didn't mind, not one bit. One afternoon, I caught her staring at me from across the living room. While pretending to read a business report, and when I asked, "What?" she just shook her head and said, "I still can't believe I married you," and I grinned, "You and the rest of the world," but then she added, "No, I mean. I'm glad I did," and yeah, maybe that sounds cheesy, but when a woman like Emily Carter says that to you with her hair in a messy bun and her laptop buried under a pile of snacks, it hits different, and I realized then that no matter how we started as the backup groom, her as the unconscious bride, and both of us fumbling our way through the world's weirdest marriage contract, we ended up exactly where we were supposed to be, and just when I thought our story had finally reached its happily ever after, Emily looked up from her phone and said, "So, what do you think about kids?" And I swear my soul left my body for a second, because that question wasn't just casual small talk, that was her way of saying, "Are you in this forever?" And I didn't even hesitate, I just smiled and said, "Only if they inherit your attitude and my patience," and she rolled her eyes and threw a pillow at me, but her smile didn't fade, and I knew whatever came next, we'd face it together. Mosquito bites, corporate takedowns, pillow fights, and all.